Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Kayfabe with Keaton. What a great guest to have coming in here, James, the guest logistics manager from Europe's largest pro wrestling convention, For the Love of Wrestling. Welcome in.
Hi, Kean. How are you?
I'm doing well.
Good. Great to meet you.
Yeah, so I've been to For the Love of Wrestling for I've been going to it for 2 years, and I've loved every minute of it. What would be your role within For the Love of Wrestling?
Yeah, so I've worked for Monopoly Events, who runs for Love of Wrestling probably for about 4 or 5 years now. Number of different roles, but yeah, I work across all the events. We put on probably 16 to 18 of Europe's biggest conventions every single year. I'm heavily involved in most of them, but particularly in the wrestling one, simply because I'm a lifelong wrestling fan. Probably like yourself, by the sounds of it.
Yeah, and I obviously I've been going for 2 years, and I've met some fabulous wrestlers like the Dudley Boys, um, Santino Morella, people like that. But who do you think's the biggest guest you've ever got on?
Do you know what we've had some huge guests over the years. Um, if we sort of look at who we've had over the years. I mean, well, this year, you just look at this year, for instance. Some of the names we've got on the lineup this year is just absolutely incredible. Thinking of people like Sting, Ric Flair, Lex Luger, Mick Foley. Mark Henry, Jake the Snake, these are all JBL, massive names in the world of wrestling. But over the years we've had some great people, the likes of Trish Stratus, who's arguably the greatest female ever to step into a wrestling ring. We had John Cena at our Wales show, which again was brilliant fun. The Undertaker has appeared at a couple of our shows, 3 in fact. One, the first ever Full of Wrestling, he was at, and that was his first ever convention appearance, I believe. And then also he did an event with us up in Scotland, and we also did an event with him over in Germany in Dusseldorf. So yeah, huge names like that. Sting, as you mentioned, but yeah, some great people. Chris Jericho, some great people over the years.
What would be your role within For the Love of Wrestling?
My role within For Love of Wrestling is probably when you call. I try and help put the show together. So I mean, there's a team of people who do the booking. Obviously, everything is overseen by the CEO, Andy, who some of your watchers may be familiar with. My role really is I do a lot of the guest logistics, and particularly with the wrestling show, I try and come up with some ideas and sort of feed into the wider team around, which guests should we book, why should we book them? If we book guests and we book guest A, for instance, we book Ron Simmons. Who else should we book? Well, let's book JBL and let's try and do a bit of a Nation of Domination reunion. All of that type of thing. So yeah, I mean, it's a really interesting job. Love doing it, but yeah, I'm probably like a small cog in a much bigger machine.
Yeah, and it sounds very stressful as well.
Do you know what? It's stressful, and it's long hours. I'm sure, as you can appreciate, especially over the weekends when we actually put the events on themselves. But it's hugely rewarding. When you pull a show off like For Love of Wrestling, and working with such a phenomenal team as well. So yeah, it's hard work, but it's great fun, and it's brilliant to be part of such a wonderful sort of event and series of events, really.
Obviously, having to help run a professional wrestling convention, obviously it's very hard. What's the biggest challenges you've faced running a wrestling convention?
Oh God, what's the biggest challenge we faced? Oh, that's an easy one. COVID. We lost 2 years to COVID. Unfortunately, we were probably the first really big convention that was closed down for COVID. So we have Comic Con Liverpool, which is one of the other events that Monopoly Events runs. That's got that big now that it has to be done twice a year, and it's now over three, possibly 4 different buildings. That's how huge that event's got. But we had that event back in 2020, and it was brilliant. It was a great atmosphere. There was guests like Elijah Wood that was there. I'm trying to think who else was there. I know at the time, at that particular event, I was looking after some of the cast from American Pie, and it was literally after that event, For Love of Wrestling was due to be 3 or 4 weeks later, from memory. But it was days after that particular event that we realised that COVID was getting really, really serious, and obviously then we had to postpone that particular For Love of Wrestling. So we didn't have For Love of Wrestling in 2020 or in 2021. So yeah, definitely. I mean that global pandemic knocked 2 years off the show, but we came back with a huge bang back in 2022, and this year we are going to be celebrating our fifth event. So For Love of Wrestling 5 coming thick and fast in a few weeks' time.
And obviously, it would probably be hard to get back on track. How are you after COVID? How are you able to get the fan base back, and how are you able to just get back on track after COVID?
Well, I think I think pre-COVID, I think the fans back in 2019, it was very strange actually putting on the 2019 show simply because it was such a huge show with such a huge lineup, and people didn't really know what to expect. There was guests on there, the likes of, as I mentioned, The Undertaker and Chris Jericho and Rob Van Dam, Hacksaw, Scott Hall, Kevin Nash, Eric Bischoff, Christian, Kelly Kelly, these types of people. So huge names, but people didn't really know what to expect. It was the first show of its kind, but very quickly the wrestling fan base bought into it. They absolutely loved it. And they were, they knew that it was going to be a good product moving forward. So I think communication was key throughout. I know, this isn't. I'm not going to name names, but I know a lot of convention companies over COVID didn't communicate with customers as well as they should have done. Whereas For Love of Wrestling and Monopoly events in general, there was a constant cycle of communication. Of this is where we're up to, this is what we're hoping for. Trying to provide, make sure that everybody had the updates. Obviously, if shows were postponed, people were given the option of refunds and things like that. So I think the way that Monopoly events operated over COVID, if anything, it actually made the bond with the fans across all the events even stronger. Just because of how well it was handled by sort of my boss and other people involved.
Yeah, and speaking of that, just because it's part of the conversation, many Molly asks, "Are you behind the Comic Con events too?"
Yeah, so Monopoly Events is behind a number of different shows. So as I said, it's probably like 16 to 18 across the UK. There's smaller shows which are sort of like one day Comic Con manias, but Monopoly Events now is responsible for, as I said, Comic Con Liverpool, which is one of the biggest shows in Europe, and that happens twice a year. Comic Con Scotland, which is in Edinburgh. Comic Con Scotland North East, which is in Aberdeen. That's just in about 3 or 4 weeks' time. And then you've got, Comic Con Wales, Comic Con Northern Ireland, Comic Con Midlands, and then over the course of the last 12 months, there's been a number of new shows which have come out as well. We went into London for the first time, so that was a For Love of Fantasy show that was heavily with Vampire Diaries and Buffy the Vampire Slayer guests and people like that. But then obviously, For Love of Fantasy is part of the wider Monopoly group, but it's more specified to a fan base, similar to For the Love of Wrestling, For the Love of Sci-Fi, For the Love of Horror, which is one of the other huge shows that's put on by Monopoly events. So there's a lot of different shows which fall under the umbrellas. Some absolutely huge, 60,000 a weekend shows in Liverpool, down to perhaps the smaller one-day events like the Comic Con Manias, and everything falls under that that Monopoly events family, which For Love of Wrestling, obviously over the last five shows, has become a huge part of.
Yeah, when you talk about that, I remember at Buller's Exhibition Centre, I was at For the Love of Wrestling, and there was For the Love of MMA, and in the year last year, when I went, it wasn't there no more. Whatever happened to For the Love of MMA?
Yeah, so I think to be honest with you, a number of things happened for Lover of MMA. There was perhaps not quite as much appetite with the wrestling fan base to share with For Love of MMA. For Love of MMA also happened the year before, funnily enough, but it happened as its own standalone event. And then last 2 years ago, we decided, well, what would happen if we sort of tried to merge the events a little bit, because obviously MMA and the thought was that there's a lot of fan bases share. Perhaps there wasn't as much crossover as we first thought, but there's my boss, the CEO Andy, he's a huge fan of MMA. He's got some great contacts. He counts people like George St. Pierre as a personal friend of his, and it wouldn't surprise me if moving forward there are other MMA events going on under the Monopoly umbrella in Manchester, further far in Europe, or perhaps even more globally abroad.
Scenic Spot asks, are there cars tickets for disabled people's cars?
Yeah, definitely. So we try to make and always try and make sure that all of the events that fall under the Monopoly banner are as always accessible as possible. So if anybody's like for Love of Wrestling, if anybody wants to know all around how do I apply for carers tickets, how accessible is the event, what do I need to do, simply go onto the For Love of Wrestling website, which is fortheloveofwrestling.co.uk. And if you go onto the How It Works section, there's a menu at the top of the website. Go into the How It Works section, and there is a disabled access section there, and that walks you through every single step. So, what is the disabled access like? What is the disabled parking like? What do I need to do if I want to apply for a carer's ticket, etc., etc. And obviously, when we make the event as accessible as possible. So, For Love of Wrestling is fully accessible by wheelchairs, and we even make sure that people with accessibility needs are all able to use the fast track queues as well. So yeah, we're very, very proud of how accessible we try and make the events. Even at the moment, we're having conversations around, are we able to do something for deaf customers in order that they can watch the panels live, and how can we integrate some sort of very modern technology that if a deaf person does come to the event and wants to sit down and watch a panel as it's being done live, there's some sort of visual aid there that will enable them to watch the panel as well. So yeah, the events are very, very fully accessible. As I say, everything's on the website that you need that information, but we are always trying to move that forward as well to make sure that we make it even more accessible for all our customers.
And how do you choose what wrestlers to bring to the show?
Yeah, I mean, so the wrestlers that come to the show, it's all really about. We obviously have every year we get together and we have a bit of a brainstorm, and we think to ourselves, right, well, who are the big names? Who do we really want to get? Who haven't we got? We always try and keep it as fresh as possible wherever we can. This year, I think we perhaps got maybe 28, 29 guests, and I think 26 of them have never ever been to the event, and this is our 5th year. So we always try and keep the event as fresh as possible. That's something that's very important to us. But obviously, in our mind, we're always thinking, right, well, what huge names do we want to get there? And if we can get those huge names, what can we do around those big guests? So certainly for this year, because unfortunately we lost him last year. Sting was due to be part of our show in 2024, but he ended up having his retirement match in AEW. So we were really sad to lose him, but obviously we completely understood how important his retirement match was to him. So it was really, really, really important to us that we tried to get Sting back this year. And then we started to think, well, who else do we want? And if we get, me as a wrestling fan, and I'm sure yourself, the idea of having both Sting and Lex Luger in this, at the same show was very exciting. And having that, almost like the two faces of WCW, having a duo photo with them. But then we started to think about, well, what if we can't get Rick? What if we try and get Lex Luger? And then what if we try and get Ron Simmons? And what if we try and get Great Muta? So then we started having all of those conversations again. And maybe it's just down to how great the booking team are. Maybe it's down to, the investment that obviously the CEO puts in the event itself. Maybe it's just, down to how good the reputation of the brand is across the globe. Or it's probably more likely to be a bit of a mixture of everything. But everything, a lot of the stuff we seem to touch this year seemed to come off. So yeah, we were looking for perhaps maybe 1, 2, or 3 of those, but no, we got Rick, we got Sting, we got Lex, we got Ron Simmons, we got Muta. We got all those people. But then when you start to think, then right, well, I've got Muta, so who else should we get? Well, let's we've never really had like some huge famous names from some sort of Japan over before. So now we've got Muta. Why don't we just think about getting Tajiri over? So then we managed to get Tajiri through the same team as Muta. Once we realised we had Ron Simmons over the line, great. Well, we've got Ron Simmons, really exciting. The first time he's ever been to the show. What can we do with him? Well, obviously, we want him in the WCW Champions photo. He's an iconic WCW champion. But also, can we get JBL and let's do an APA reunion? And while we've got him as well, why don't we try and do a Nation of Domination reunion? And again, really funny that the event just because of a lot of things that were going on around the world and shows that were happening at the time. It wasn't quite as easy to nail down guests as we would like last year. Whereas this year, everyone we seem to invite seems to want to be part of the show. So yeah, we always try and we have an idea of which guests we'd like, and that's also almost our foundation of the event, and then we start to build around it. And I think one of the best things that we do at For Love of Wrestling is if we've got 28 guests, we don't want 28 individual guests who are going to do nothing. We want 28 guests like a Ron Simmons who can do the WCW photo, and then who can do the Nation of Domination, and then who can do the APA photo, and then he can do his own photo. So we like guests to have connections to each other, so we can do very fun reunions, once in a lifetime photo. If I think about that Icons of WCW photo, which is the Champions photo, which is Ron, Lex, Sting, and Rick. As far as we're aware, and we do quite a bit of research on this, we don't think that photo's ever been done at any convention ever in the world. So, these guys have been doing conventions for 30, 40 years, and this is the first time anyone's been able to sort of nail them all down into, get them all at the same event. So, yeah, huge for us. And as I say, it's, I think one of the big things that comes across, hopefully it comes across to all the fans, is that the reason why we do this and the reason why we try and do this is because everybody involved in the event is a wrestling fan as well. So this isn't a team of people who put on conventions just going, actually, let's do a wrestling convention. This is a team of wrestling fans who happen to work in the convention world going, let's do this. So hopefully that comes across, and that's why we book perhaps guests you may not see at other conventions. I'm thinking of the likes of someone like Mike Chioda. So Mike Chioda, would somebody book him for a convention somewhere else? I'm not sure, but we as a wrestling fan completely understand how important Mike Chioda's been to the history of wrestling. We want to hear his road stories. He had an amazing, phenomenal career. You just think about Hogan versus Rock. He was closer to those two. He was in that ring with those two. So if I want to hear from anybody about that, the Rock versus Hogan match, I want a conversation with Mike Chioda. So we're really looking to having Mike over as well. And that's what I mean about perhaps having wrestling fans who are, as part of this team. It's hugely, hugely important, and we think that comes across.
Yeah. By the way you're speaking there, you can tell you're very passionate about For Love of Wrestling, and so for you, when you were trying to get over Sting last year, obviously it didn't work out too well because he had to go to the AEW. How are you able to stay in contact with these wrestlers over the years to get on different conventions?
Yeah, of course. So we've got brilliant relationships. I mentioned earlier when we were talking around people like Eric Bischoff. So I'm going to go back to that. I'm going to go back to that very first event in 2019. We had a For Love of Wrestling podcast at the time, and I went and interviewed Eric Bischoff, and we're just having a very general chat with him and just saying, "Oh, thank you very much for coming over. I am aware that you've flown halfway around the world to come to us, and we're a little island." And Eric Bischoff was. He couldn't speak highly enough of the event and the fans, and he said that he'd come over. He always loves coming over to the UK because the UK fans are some of the best in the world. He always thinks that the UK fans are probably the most respectful fans in the world, and they're always more appreciative because that we are aware of. Obviously, he's flown halfway around the world, and he was saying that outside of North America, people are very aware, the UK is the biggest market. It's where everybody wants to crack. And which you've seen with companies like AEW, the first show they did outside of sort of North America was, Wembley Stadium. So yeah, you learn through that, and I know, and I still speak to people today who say to me, "Oh, yeah, I heard from Eric Bischoff about your show. He always said how great it was." So just like when you go to work, or I go to work, or anybody else goes to work, you have your friends at work, you have your WhatsApp groups with your friends. Wrestlers all do that as well, and they're all looking out for each other. So we might have Eric Bischoff at one show, and then on the plane on the way home, he's going, "Hey, you've got to get in touch with these Monopoly guys. They're great. They look after you. The fans are brilliant." So yeah, I mean, back in 2019, it was probably a little bit more difficult, but now the brand has got a phenomenal reputation all around the globe. I go to a couple of different conventions overseas every year. I was in Philadelphia last year. I'm off to Vegas in sort of 6-7 weeks for Mania again, and I attend a few conventions over there. And when I'm talking to wrestlers, When I mentioned For Love of Wrestling, oh yeah, I know that, I've heard about that. Arn Anderson, I was having a conversation with Arn Anderson in Philadelphia last year, and he was like, I keep meaning to get in touch with you guys. I've heard great things, So it's things like that builds the relationship, and just making sure when we are lucky enough to get guests over here, we look after them, we treat them well, we make sure they have great interaction with the fans, and that's how really these days we get a lot of our guests. Back in 2019, it was a lot of email chasing, a lot of phone calls. Now I'll be completely honest with you, we get a lot of guests emailing us and asking us if they can be part of the show. We've had two big names earlier this week who reached out to us via Twitter or X or whatever it's called these days, asking if it was too late for them to be booked on the show. That's what this show's like now. It is a global brand, and it's got a really good reputation out there in the wrestling world.
Yeah, and I also saw that you got guests like Sting and Ric Flair, but you're also getting Ravy Davy for a free free meet and greet. How'd you get in touch with Ravy Davy?
Yeah, so it's a really good question. So what we've done this year, probably more than we've ever done before, is we are aware that obviously we've got this brand and we've got this show. So what we've done this year is we've tried to partner up with as many different independent wrestling shows all around the UK. So obviously we have wonderful, brilliant, long-term relationships with the likes of Progress Wrestling, who are doing our Friday Night Live show this year, and also Future Shock Wrestling, who are doing our Saturday night show this year. They've done our Saturday night show every single time since 2019. But we wanted to reach out even further than that and support all of the UK's independent wrestling. So over the course of the last 3 or 4 months, we're trying to get in touch with everybody. And if there's anybody we haven't got in touch with who runs a wrestling promotion, please give us drop us a mail on the Facebook page, give us an email, because we'd like to work with you guys. So yeah, we reached out to all of the independent promotions we could find and just said, look, we've got this show going on. Would you like to be part of it in any way? Would you like to would you like to help us to promote it, and we'll help to promote you, vice versa. And so that's how we did that. We got in touch with a number of different people, and then we met Ravy Davy through a couple of the organisations he works for. So I think we've lost Keaton for a minute. I think he's dropped offline. So I will try and answer some of the questions that have come through. What's the best? So Wrestling Insider. What's the best piece of merch that you? Hi, sorry, you're
Sorry.
right.
Yeah. Sorry about that. There's technical difficulties.
No worries. I was just answering some of the questions. Someone was just asked in the chat, what's the best piece of merch that you have got on For Love of Wrestling? I don't know. We've got some amazing collections, and we do every year. We reach out to all of the biggest collectors all over Europe and ask them to come and be part of the show. Last year, for instance, we had the number 3 chair from the Pontiac Silverdome. So the number 3 chair from WrestleMania 3 when Hulk Hogan slammed Andre the Giant. So we have some incredible collectors who bring their stuff. We've got a guy bringing over a ridiculously rare collection of Japanese and Mexican figures this year. So yeah, loads and loads of merch. Sorry, Keaton, back to you. I was just answering some questions while you were off.
So I noticed that you For Love of Wrestling obviously is very fan interactive. The wrestlers are very fan interactive, and most of the wrestlers that I've met at it have been extremely nice and friendly. It seems like everything else I'm saying, they're most likely saying it. What's the weirdest thing you've ever seen a fan ask to sign for a wrestler?
Well, yeah, and it is interactive, and the reason why, and I think that the more specific events, so For the Love of Horror, For the Love of Wrestling, I think there's a different atmosphere at those events than you'll see at any other convention, and the reason being is, if we have, let's say for Liverpool, for instance, if we have 50 guests at Comic Con Liverpool. Some of them will know each other. Some of them won't know each other. Some of them may have worked on films together. Some of them may have been meeting for the first time. When we have 30 guests on For Love of Wrestling, they all know each other. They've all worked together, whether it be in WWE, TNA, AEW, NWA, wherever it happens to be. So it's very rare that you'll get 2 wrestlers together who haven't worked with each other, or careers haven't passed through each other at some point, or they don't know each other, that know someone who knows someone, etc. So when we get all these 30 wrestlers in a room. It's a little bit like a reunion for them, and they have a great time. A lot of them, especially when you see some of the older guys, they may not have seen it. They may have been on tour with some of these people for 20 years, and then now they've not seen them for 5 years. So it's very much like a reunion, and the guests are having an amazing time, and they're catching up, and it's like a little bit of a holiday for them, and they're having just a brilliant time with with a lot of their lifelong friends, and that comes across because they're having fun. They want to be there, and then that comes across to the fans. But if I think what's the strangest thing I've ever seen. Probably what I have seen as well is I've seen somebody get a signature. Was it? I'm trying to think who it was now. Was it Rob Van Dam? Was it Daniel Bryan? I'm trying to think who it was. It may have been Daniel Bryan. It may have been RVD. But I remember a fan coming up to the table and asking for a signature, and then the person got it signed on their arm there, and they thanked RVD, and then they just ran up. They just ran off. It's like, that's a bit weird. I think, and I've seen it a few more times since, but this was the first time I've seen it, and they just ran off. And apparently they had a taxi waiting outside. They jumped in the taxi, went to a tattoo parlor in Manchester, got the tattooist to tattoo over the signature. So they had, let's say it was RVD's, like, he's got quite an iconic signature. So they had RVD's signature tattooed on him, got the taxi back, and then got the photo in the afternoon with the brand new RVD tattoo on their arm. So yeah, you see some crazy things like that. But yeah, we've seen any piece of merch you can imagine. We've seen signed. People bring chairs and all that sort of cool stuff, belts. But yeah, people getting themselves signed to then get tattoos is always a funny one, I think.
What are your most memorable moments from past conventions?
Most memorable moments. Most memorable moments. And I was talking to somebody about this last night, funnily enough. Probably one of the most memorable is we were very lucky enough to have Bray Wyatt on two of our shows. We had him, and it was brilliant timing as well. The first time we had him was part of a WWE event. So WWE were touring the UK. And they were doing an event in Manchester, and then we did an event with them on the Saturday. And just so happened to be that the week before they came to us, Bray Wyatt won his first ever world title. So he brought the world title to the event, and that was the first time I got to work with Bray, which was really, really cool. Then we had him at our event in 2020. I'm going to go for 2022. We had Bray Wyatt at our event, and it'd be about 3 to 4 months after he finished up with WWE the first time, and he was a really, really special guy. I mean, he was just one of the nicest, warmest guys you could ever imagine. Unbelievably humble, but very charismatic, and he had a really, really, really weird aura. When I say weird, I mean when you were in his presence, you sort of could feel like an electricity from him. I've only ever experienced it with another wrestler, and that was The Undertaker. When you're sort of in his presence, and you're very, very aware that you're in the presence of somebody. But yeah, Bray Wyatt was just phenomenally cool that weekend when he worked with us. And we were absolutely blessed because we had a private meet and greet with Bray at the end of the day. And we took Bray upstairs, and there was about 15 of us sat in a circle, and Bray just spoke. For about 20 minutes, half an hour, Bray just spoke. And he told us about where he was in life, where he was with his mental health, where he had to leave WWE, whether he had any thoughts about going back to WWE, how important the people around him were, how important his friends in wrestling were. He took questions, and it's probably the most honest Q&A I've ever had with anybody. And for everybody that was in that room, it was really, really special. And throughout, you could have heard a pin drop. So yeah, that's, for me as a fan, as a huge Bray Wyatt fan, very lucky to have worked with him a couple of times, as I say. Yeah, that's probably my favourite moment ever as a wrestling fan and someone who's involved in this convention.
And sorry, Keaton, I was late, but I'm here. I just want to let you know I've been following it along, though. I've been listening to all the questions and coming in, and you handled it well. Although you did lose connection there for a second, I see.
Oh, did I?
Yeah. Well, yeah. When you went out, I don't know if you even realized it. Yeah, you went off for a bit there.
But that sounded like such a good moment. Meeting someone like Bray Wyatt and someone so legendary.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, Bray was amazing. We had him on, we had him on the show, and we also had on the same show we had Braun Strowman, and we also had Eric Rowan on that show as well. So we had the three guys, and it was great. It was amazing to have those three guys as one of our prop builds that year. We rebuilt the Firefly Funhouse and also the Wyatt shed with the rocking chair and everything. It was very cool. But yeah, Bray was a really really special guy. He's somebody who we should always remember.
And James, I was listening to all these other conventions you do. Are you involved with all of those other ones as well, or is there a whole team of you guys that do different ones?
Oh God, yeah, I'm just a small cog in the wheel. There's a huge team behind these events. I mean, you're talking hundreds and hundreds of people that work at these events to get them over the line. But yeah, as I say, if you go onto the Monopoly Events Facebook page, you'll see all around the brand. But as I say, 16 to 18 of Europe's biggest conventions, stretching from, as I say, all the way up in Aberdeen, all the way down to sort of London and across to Newport over in Belfast. Got our first one this year coming up in. God, you're going to test me on dates now. Coming up in June or July, we're going to be doing the NEC as well for our Comic Con Midlands event. So yeah, they're coming thick and fast as they always do. But yeah, lots and lots of events this year.
And is there only one for Love of Wrestling, or do you have multiple ones around Europe?
No, so we do. It's a great question. Funnily enough, we do For the Love of Wrestling, which is our flagship wrestling event, which is obviously the one that's happening in 3.5 weeks. And funnily enough, as I was mentioning before, there's this. We're always looking for ways to sort of innovate the events. What we have noticed over the last few years is we have the wrestling event at the start of the year, and we have the horror event at the end of the year. So and you all, I walk around there, and I'd say probably like 10% of the people at the horror event are wearing wrestling t-shirts. So you become aware that there is this big crossover with the fan base. So for the first time ever this year, we are doing a horror, rock, and wrestling show. So that's going to be the three genres: horror, rock, and wrestling. And that event is coming up. Probably that event's going to be at the end of March. Now, there's lots and lots of guest announcements still to come for that. But from a wrestling fan's perspective, two names that have already been announced is David Arquette, who some people will know as WCW champion. Some people obviously know from the Scream films. And also Chris Jericho. Again, Chris Jericho ticks every single box. He's in a number of different films, including the new Terrifier, or the last two Terrifiers. Obviously, he's got his band Fozzy, and obviously he's one of the greatest ever to step into a wrestling ring. So, yeah, that we've got For Love of Wrestling as a single wrestling show, but then, as I say, just coming fast behind it at the end of March, there is horror, rock, and wrestling, which is debuting this year for the first time.
If you could have any wrestler, living or dead, to come on to this convention, who would it be?
Oh, it's a great question. Any wrestler, living or dead? Okay, two. I would probably say one of three, which would be Andre the Giant, because I think that is just probably one of the greatest photos of all time. Andre the Giant, Randy Savage, because for me, Randy Savage is right up there as one of the best ever. And Mr. Perfect, I think for me, Mr. Perfect is probably the best, the most naturally gifted athlete that I've ever seen in a wrestling ring. And that's still my go-to. That's what I go back and watch now, all those golden era years. So yeah, any event that had Andre Perfect or Randy Savage, you'd see me first in the queue.
And for when you started till now, what are the most important lessons you've ever learned?
Most important lessons, I would probably say, never stop innovating. As I say, there's a big team that's involved in this, and very, obviously we've got our CEO as well, who's sort of supports all the events. But I'd probably say never trying to stop innovating, never stop thinking of ideas, never stop thinking of ways to make it bigger, better, more fun. Never stop trying to do world first like we're doing this year. I'm sure it'd be quite easy when you get a successful event to sort of rest on your laurels a little bit, whereas we continue as a full team to try and think, well, actually, let's be, we're already thinking about 2026. How do we make it even better? How do we make it even bigger? What guests do we want to start lining up? What sort of fun do we want? What reunions do we want to do? So yeah, always keep innovating, I'd probably say is the biggest lesson.
And Keaton, did you ask what are you expecting to come through this convention? How many people? Do you have like an idea as far as
Oh, well,
attendance?
yeah. I mean, it could be, 12,000 over the weekend. It's going to be a lot of people, a lot of wrestling fans inside the building itself. So, yeah, huge amount of people coming in there. It's going to be very, very busy, particularly on Saturdays. We've got Sting for one day, but we'll be crazy, crazy busy.
Yeah, and now that we're coming to the end of the show here, I want to thank you for coming on. I've just got one last question for you. So, for people who are wanting to come in, to go to For the Love of Wrestling in 2025, why should they go?
Why should they go? I mean, well, first of all, the lineup itself. I mean, the lineup speaks for itself. We've got Rick, Sting, Mick Foley, Lex Luger, Ron Simmons, Bradshaw, Mark Henry. We've not even mentioned Mark Henry or Jake the Snakes or Jinder Mahal, or we've got both a Godfather and Papa Shango. For your older guys who are more extreme, as I said, we've got Mick. We've also got Shane Douglas. We've got Sabu. We've got Tajiri. We've got some modern stars like Heath Slater, Django, Breeze. Dana Brooke, who's currently going by Ash by Elegance. We've got countless world champions, countless WWE Hall of Famers, huge legends. So come to the event. That's the guests obviously are a huge part of it, but there's so much more going on. We've got lots of prop builds. There's going to be a gaming area. There's going to be an indoor wrestling market. There's going to be exhibitors who are going to be there talking about some of the biggest collections in the world that they've got. The panels, for me, the thing that always goes under the radar is the panels. So, and I attend a lot of these shows myself, so this isn't me criticizing them, but if you go to an evening or if you go to a show which just has one wrestler talking, you might pay £20, £25 to go to an evening with a wrestler. You come to For Love of Wrestling and you'll have wrestlers doing Q&As all day in the center of the ring. Every single one of those panels is included within your entry ticket. So you can buy one entry ticket and you can just come and watch panels all weekend. It is the most insane value. You will never find a wrestling event anywhere in the world, as far as I'm concerned, that is better value than For Love of Wrestling. And it is all welcome to the family as well. So if you've got kids that are 4 years and under, they can come completely free. If your children are between 5 and 9, they get what's called a concession ticket, which is almost half price. It's all about us as well, supporting the family unit, bringing the next generation of wrestling fans through. And if anybody needs any more information at all, please make sure you go to one or two places. The first one would be the website, www.fortheloveofwrestling.co.uk. But the easiest place to find out everything you need, just jump on the Facebook page. The Facebook page is For the Love of Wrestling. It's got over 100,000 followers, so you'll find it very quickly. It normally comes to the top of the list, and everything you need will be on there. The dates, the times, the websites, the links, the lineups, the prop builds, the traders, the exhibitors, all of those types of things. You'll find them all listed on there. So, yeah, there's too many reasons to go into now of why you should come for Love of Wrestling. With everything I've said to you this evening, it's probably more important trying to find a reason not to come.
This has been so fascinating having you on here. Thanks so much for coming on.
No problem at all. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you.
Cheers now. Bye.
Well, that was fascinating. I of course wasn't here live. I mean, I was listening when you started, so I listened in the whole time. And yeah, that was just a great interview. It lived up to our expectations, I would say, huh, Keaton?
Definitely.
Yeah, that was fascinating. That's going to be a big convention for the whole area. I know a bunch of you guys are probably going to coming over from Northern Ireland to see this one, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you went to what, 2 years? You said?
Yeah, I went to 2 years in a row.
Yeah. So exciting stuff. I mean, we obviously didn't get to all the questions, but limited on time and everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah. Yeah, I was watching on my way back from my jobs, and I had to see if you were able to get the show started on your own there. So,
Yeah, well, there were some technical difficulties, but mostly it was okay.
was everything connected good in the beginning though? Like no
everything
issues?
was fine.
Like we didn't have those audio issues we had last time or whatever?
No, nothing like that, thankfully.
Yeah. Good. Yeah, like I said, it's hard for me to get on during the week like this, but yeah. But no, fascinating interview and stuff. So, as you know, yesterday was Crusher Crossen's birthday, so happy birthday to me.
Yeah, happy birthday.
Yep, happy birthday to me. And I think yours is coming up, right?
Yeah, it's coming up soon.
When is it? So how many days? Like soon, right?
Yeah, it's on Sunday.
This Sunday, huh?
Hmm.
So it's funny enough that, normally we'd have a show on Sundays, but we're not having one this Sunday on your birthday though. So
No.
nothing's scheduled. So, and you're turning what, 13?
Yeah, 13.
13, yeah. So, yeah, that's cool. So do you have any big plans for your birthday?
I don't know yet. Don't think so.
No? Yeah, I don't know. I've had enough of them now where it's just another day for me.
Yeah.
So, and unlike the Canary Kid who likes to think I'm 75, I'm not quite that old. So,
Canary Kid never gets it wrong.
yeah, well, he got that wrong. Canary Kid never gets wrong. You know what, Keaton? I was gonna tell you too. I was thinking about this from our last show. Remember when we had Canary Kid on when he stepped in for Ben Nelson who couldn't make it? Remember that show? And Canary Kid stepped in, and he didn't like your line of questioning, and he's threatened to start fighting you and beating you up and everything. All of a sudden, you're cheerleading for him. Makes me wonder if it's more like the bully kid or the bully from Belfast Canary Kid here, because he's like bullied you now into cheerleading for him.
Listen, I have thought about it, and at the start I thought it was very irresponsible, and it was no reason to do it. Why the Canary Kid done it? But the more I thought about it, my line of questioning was awful. I was asking the Canary Kid stupid questions like, "What's next for the Canary Kid? What's next for the Canary Kid is him going to WWE and destroying all the titles there and destroying everyone in NIPW." So no wonder the Canary Kid was angry. Now I respect the Canary Kid, and I understand why he was annoyed at my line of questioning.
Oh my gosh, that Kool-Aid is extra sweet for you today, isn't it? You just have gotten into the Kool-Aid here, and you're just mesmerized here all of a sudden by the Canary Kid. I don't know where that's coming from. Because I'm certainly not. But he's look, and I want to make this clear in Northern Ireland. I'm not saying Canary Kid's bad. He's good. He's getting light crusher with the drop kick. What can you say? But I don't know. I mean, there's so many other great wrestlers out of NIPW. Like John McCann, Badass Ben Nelson, one of my favorites. And his brother Jordan, don't forget him.
Yeah, all them names you named are great, but the Canary Kid is on another level. No matter where he goes, he's just the best. Everywhere he wrestles, NIPW, if he went to WWE, he's too good for WWE. Anywhere he wrestles, he's just the best.
Yeah, but he's also not good enough for Crusher Crossen because he's chicken to get in the ring with Crusher. Isn't that something? He's so invincible. He takes any challenge, demands his coach to a match, and then his coach beat his ass. But when it comes to Crusher Crossen, nowhere to be found. He's silent.
Well, I feel like the Canary Kid has too much of a good reputation than hurting you. He already said this, that he has too much of a good reputation, and he's putting his reputation on the line facing you. Imagine if he hurt you.
He ain't gonna hurt Crusher Crossen. But you know something? Like, I don't know if I mentioned on your channel, but we're gonna have some big news coming up and an announcement that will. Let me just say it's gonna be very much of interest to all you over there. So let's stay tuned for that, and maybe it's not quite what you're gonna think, I guess. Crusher. Here's the thing you gotta remember about Crusher Crossen. I'm retired. I'm no longer doing this anymore. Right? I'm not a wrestler anymore. I used to be, and I was better than Canary Kid, and he knows it. But
absolutely not.
Those days are no longer. That was another few decades ago. So,
what a statement! I'm better than the Canary Kid.
Yes, I am, and you even said so yourself when you got my book and learned my story back in the day.
I didn't say that.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did. I heard. That's what I heard. That's what I heard. Everybody.
Well, I respected your story, how the NWF started and how you kept it going for so long. I respected that, and you were an incredible wrestler in the ring. But we're talking about the Canary Kid here. You just said that you're better than the Canary Kid. That's like comparing yourself to Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson or John Cena.
Oh my gosh, you got Canary Kid on some kind of a pedestal so high that it's higher than anything in the entire island of Ireland. I mean, they should make a statue on this guy as far as you're concerned, right?
What an idea. They
Oh
should.
boy. Oh boy. Ladies and gentlemen, this kid has gone off the rockers. I don't know what to say. I don't know how to even elaborate on this. But all I know is I'm very excited for what's to come, and I can't wait till we get things confirmed and we can make some formal announcements. And it's going to be very exciting times coming up here for Northern Ireland, folks, and for NWF. Some exciting things in the works. So that's about all the hint I'm going to give, though. A little bit of a dark horse. We got to keep it a surprise. So, but anyways, who do we got next coming up? Let's talk about what we got coming up on our shows. We've you know we've done our usual Canary talk, and that's enough. That it's all the attention I want to give that kid. So let's talk about what's coming up on our future shows. Let me see if I have that stuff in here. I think I do. Yes, I do. So tomorrow on NWF Rewind, which I know you don't watch live, Keaton, because you'd have to get up at 2 a.m. We're gonna go back to studio taping 27 in this early garage. I was gonna say garage, early cable station or the cable studio days, Group W cable. Early stuff, 1984, I believe. Yes.
Well,
So yeah, very early, and our NWF fans absolutely love this early stuff. So for them, they're gonna be super excited for this one tomorrow. But by the way, Keaton, we have another video that's going viral on us again.
viral?
Yeah. Yeah, the one I
But it was just
uploaded, I usually upload a pre-match preview, like a free preview of a whole match from every show I restore, and the Rough Ryan versus Dynamite Dude match from the Garage stuff. Yeah,
whoa,
that one's over almost 5,000 views now in like 4 or 5 days.
whoa.
Got us another 100 subscribers. Yeah, it's fun when those videos take off like that. I don't know why it does. Every now and then they just do that, and I cannot figure out how that happens. And then our next show with me and Ricky, your favorite Canary Kid, is going to be a week from Friday. So January 31st. It's going to be CC Carter with Sean Hernandez with San Antonio Style Wrestling. And boy, oh boy, I hope Hernandez didn't catch Canary's wording last week. Did you hear what he said?
Yeah, I did, and maybe it was a tiny bit strange for him to say that it was an honor for Sean Hernandez to meet him, and Sean Hernandez inspired him. Well, maybe Sean Hernandez did, but I wouldn't say that if I was a Canary Kid. But the Canary Kid decides what he wants to say because he is the Canary Kid.
I think it's more the other way around. And if Hernandez ever got his hands on Canary Kid, it would just be an annihilation. I mean, you wouldn't even, the bird, all you would see is just a puff of smoke and feathers going everywhere, and there would be no more Canary Kid.
Don't know about that.
So I don't know. I mean, but this guy here, CC Carter, so Officer Smalls, or Smalls as he likes to be called, really talks highly of Carter. He thinks he's really good. His exact words to me when I was messaging him, Smalls that is, he said, Carter, when he makes a mistake, it looks like it's normal. He's that good. So
Yeah, crazy.
very interested to see. We got some highlights of some of his matches as well to show, and it'll be a great discussion. And chances are, I can't guarantee it, folks, but chances are Hernandez will pop in for that. He usually does with his students, so we'll see. I mean, especially if they're at the training center, I'm sure he'll pop in. So, and then Canary Kid may have to face the facts there because Hernandez might not be too happy if he heard what Canary said. We'll see. So, yeah, that'll be a fun one. That's a week from Friday. So, and then do we have a graphic for
Yes, we do. I'll just get it up now.
your next one?
What
Okay, here we go.
we have coming on the Necessary Evil, Johnny Palmer, who is very up and coming around UK wrestling, in the new independent scene. He's won a lot of titles around there. He's still upcoming wrestling. He's been wrestling for about 5 years, so I suppose he's fairly new to some of the other guests we've have on, and he's quite big in the UK, as I said, and it'll be great to have him on.
I said belt says CWA. What is that organization?
Trying to remember. I can't remember the name of it. I know what it is. Just can't remember the name.
Is it still around?
Yes, I think so.
Okay, so that's like, is it a European show or league
Yeah, UK.
or UK? Okay, and that's going to be a week from Sunday, February 2nd. So it'll be short right after our forward show, and yeah, that'll be a great show, and I'm looking forward. I should make that one, so I should be there for that one,
Oh,
hopefully.
good.
Yeah, so some exciting stuff coming up for everything on all our channels. And by the way, just a reminder, Rewind will still just be on NWF, but the Forward show, our NWF Forward, because Ricky Henry's a part of it and has a lot of meaning for you guys over there, they like to follow Canary. It will be simulcast on your channel as well as NWF now going forward.
That'll be good.
Yeah, so people
Can't
that
wait
are
to have
subscribed to your channel, they'll be able to catch it too. Not that
more
they're
canary,
going to, what's that?
more canary on my channel, the better.
And remember, you have to, that one, Keaton even stays up a lot of times to watch it. So that one starts at 10 o'clock Ireland time. So for the forward show, we do it a little earlier, because I think of the Canary Kid and I don't want him to have to be up super late or get up at 2 a.m, even though a lot of times he is up still. He shouldn't be, but especially on school nights. But yeah, so he'll be on for that, and I'm sure he'll try to talk his smack like he usually does. He's so disrespectful. I don't know.
I can't even comment on that. It's just such a strange decision to try to talk about the Canary Kid like that, calling him disrespectful.
I want the Canary Kid I had the very first time that was super nice and respectful and said it was an honor to be compared to Crusher. I want that Canary Kid.
Why do you think that changed? Why do you think the respect changed?
I don't
Because you
know.
disrespected him, Crusher. You've disrespected by the Canary Kid by mocking him on every show, mocking the actual how the Canary Kid wrestles, calling him the little birdie when really he's not the little birdie. He is the king bird of NIPW. He is
Listen
like
to
the
this guy.
bird leader
Listen to
of
this guy.
NIPW.
And you know what, Gizmo? I agree. Gizmo says bad bird. There's a reason he dresses in yellow. Absolutely. That's the coward color, what I like to call the coward color. And that's very fitting for him. But now he kind of dresses in those silver Elvis pants, though, now. So, yeah, he's got a little different look now. And then it says, Sports Video even says, I can't wait for the first Keaton versus Canary Kid match. Well, you guys have sparred enough in training.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and for the clips I've seen, he's always beating you up. No, it's no wonder you're talking so highly of Canary Kid, because he's just physically he's bullying you into saying all these things, is my opinion.
When have you ever seen the Canary Kid beat me up once?
In your own little short videos you post in your training segments.
I do not recall one memory where the Canary Kid has tried to beat me up.
Because you maybe got hit so many times by him in the little segments of those training times. Canary loves to do these little chops and whip and hits and stuff in the corner. I'll tell you right now, he ever tried that to me, all you'd see is him getting flying back in the middle of the ring, landing on the back of his head, because I would just kick him back from out of me. You need to learn to counter that. Don't let anybody get you in the corner and start working you over like that.
The Canary Kid wants me to be a better professional wrestler, and he'll take any risks to make me get better. That's what a good coach does. And if it involves slapping me, anything, I respect the Canary Kid for doing that, unlike you.
So why is it that when I say what I'm going to do to the Canary Kid, you just shake your head and like, oh, you can't do that. That's not right. You can't do that.
Because he's the Canary Kid, he can make his own decisions.
Well, guys, I mean, I can't hurt a minor, so it's like he's got protection of the authorities. I can't hurt him. So, even though I could, but
You wouldn't want to. He's too much of a good wrestler.
I mean, and you know what? And here's another thing. You're talking about respect. I showed Ben's artwork on our show, remember? And I showed Canary Kid that one he did. I was very respectful for that art. He said, this is a really nice piece. Good. Then I showed mine and Canary just dissed it. And I said, why? You can't even give me any compliments on that art piece?
I don't remember him dissing it. I remember him saying that Ben Nelson, that was good artwork and Ben Nelson's a good artist. But when Ben Nelson done done showed the photo of Kurt Crossen drop kicking the Canary Kid. The Canary Kid was just making a statement saying obviously it'd be the opposite way about. So the Canary Kid's just making a statement. He did not say anything bad about Ben Nelson's artwork. He's actually respecting Ben Nelson. He's just
No,
stating
he
facts.
said it was horrible. He said it was unrealistic. He said it was not how it would go. Yeah, he just dis. And not only that, it wasn't a drop kick, Keaton. It was a flying karate kick, is what it was. Kind of like a drop kick. And it just knocked Canary out in that picture. I love that graphic. That was excellent artwork by Ben, I got to say. Let's see, your dad's chiming in. He says, Sean, your little legs hanging out under your screen behind your socials could do with a bit of a tan. Little legs. I don't understand what he means by my little legs hanging out under your screen. Maybe he means I'm like, I don't, it's funny he brings up tan because the guys used to give me, back in the day when I would be wrestling, they'd say they used to say I was from Beverly Hills or Venice Beach, California. They said he must not have been back to California lately because it doesn't look too tan. They used to give me a hard time over that, the commentators, I remember. Funny he brings that up. But yeah, so Darren chiming in too. And by the way, Canary was saying, and he was kind of laughing when he said it, and I'm like, he goes, my first match I ever lost was against a really good wrestler, Poppin' Patty. And he's trying to not giggle through when he was saying it. And I looked at Poppin' Patty. He's not like a big legend in Europe like he's making him out to be.
Well, Poppin' Patty was an extremely incredible wrestler. He just had better, not better things to be doing, but he just had more things to be doing. And for the Canary Kid to lose,
I'm not saying he's bad. I'm just saying he isn't what Canary made him out to be, like a really huge star. That's what Canary was insinuating.
But what I'm saying is that the Canary Kid, when he faced Poppin' Patty, it's very easy to lose to Poppin' Patty, and even for his debut, he near won one of the NIPW's, well, at the time NXT Wrestling's best professional wrestlers, Poppin' Patty. That's how skilled the Canary Kid was from day one. He was a natural from day one.
Yeah, and then I looked at Poppin' Patty, and I came across him on your channel, and you and your dad were leaving talking about the training, and you're like, oh no, Poppin' Patty, and he was like laying on the sidewalk. And I mean, homeless. I don't know what the case was, but and this is the guy that's this big, great, European legend.
He was fired from NIPW by Jolene, and whilst he was fired, he became homeless, unfortunately, and he lived outside the Lions Den Pro Wrestling Dojo.
Yes, and this is the guy that beat the Canary Kid, and the Canary Kid thinks that means he can beat me. That don't make any sense.
Well, Poppin' Patty is one of the greatest in NXT history, so I think he could beat. Well, he couldn't beat. He could probably beat you and another NWF guy in a 2-on-1 handicap match. He couldn't beat the Canary Kid. Now, no one could beat the Canary Kid, but I'm not saying anything bad about your professional wrestling skills.
Let me remind you, Keaton. Yeah, I've been in handicap matches, not just 2-on-1. I've been in 3-on-1 and even 4-on-1 at one time. I did a 4-on-1 handicap match. You find somebody else who's done a 4-on-1. Canary Kid would get annihilated in any kind of handicap match, let alone 2, 3, or 4.
I think Canary Kid could do any, and I mean any handicap match, even. Who am I thinking of? What about now the Super D's? Two of the probably the greatest NWF tag team of all time, in my opinion, and they're absolutely incredible in the ring. But if that was a 2-on-1 handicap match, the Canary Kid would still win because he is the Canary Kid.
Yeah, I actually went against the Super D's once in a handicap. Both them, and it was 3-on-1 in that one. I actually did that, actually.
Well, the Canary Kid could be anyone in a handicap match, so
that
would never be annihilated.
That is the fun thing, though, I gotta say. Like, when you have lightweights, like in your situation, Keaton, if you ever get a match in a handicap match and you can go against 2 of the littler guys, it really is fun to do handicap matches. You can do a lot with those in this business. And I think there's a market for that. You can make a match like that, especially if it makes sense aesthetically like that. So that's why I would do these 2 and 3 and 4 handicap matches. I'm going against the lightweight guys. And yeah, I know all our viewers, Gizmo and them, they loved it when I do these handicaps. Wouldn't always win those, but especially when you have 4 of them. Let's see. So here's Darren. Darren was clarifying this, Keaton. He said, your dad, he said, On the screen, you are above Keaton's legs.
Oh, right.
So meaning you look like Casper.
But
And then
uh
bring back Patty. Crusher
oh,
Crusher was the 4-on-1 machine in a kindergarten. Yeah. Well, I tell you something, it doesn't matter when you got 4 kids coming at you, even if they're smaller. Good luck. I'd like to see Canary take on 4 of you guys in training. He'd get annihilated there too.
destroy
It's
us. And
no, he wouldn't destroy you.
now I'm even saying this myself. I would destroy most people in professional wrestling, but not the Canary Kid. Who can destroy the Canary Kid?
Boy, you're just nothing but a cheerleader. You know what you need? You need pom poms, and you need to get like the letter thing, so that you're like the cheerleader that you're sounding here for him. And it can
But
be yellow pom poms, just to go with the yellow color.
but Paddy there was lucky enough to beat the Canary Kid in a one-on-one match later on. Of course he couldn't beat the Canary Kid, but of course Pop and Paddy is an absolutely incredible wrestler. But again, the Canary Kid would destroy anyone that comes to his side.
Well, here, look at the Sky Sports Video News he says, I don't know if it is loyalty or fear that keeps Keaton in love with the Canary Kid. Well, I'll answer that, Sky Sports. It's fear. He's probably, who knows the kind of threatening he's done with him in those training sessions on Saturday mornings, saying, if you keep talking like this about me, it's going to get worse. Who knows what's been said to him behind closed doors? And you know what? Canary is being exactly what I thought he was, a bully. He's
What an
being the bully of
accusation!
Belfast. Yep.
What a crazy accusation! The Canary Kid would never do anything like that. He is a respectful young man. He would never try to convince me into anything. He would never convince me into bravery to do anything like that. He is. I made my own decision from past experiences and the way you treat the Canary Kid. So it's loyalty. It's loyalty, respecting NIPW. Because when you
I don't know.
disrespect the Canary Kid, you're disrespecting a fan favorite of NIPW. When you disrespect someone from NIPW, obviously you're disrespecting NIPW. Then if you disrespect NIPW, you disrespect me. So you're disrespecting a whole nation, and that is exactly why it is loyalty.
Are you
That
trying to say that you guys worship a foul mouth, disrespectful punk kid, and that who you want to worship and be the big fan of?
we respect a very polite gentleman who is an incredible wrestler and will stand up for NIPW when anyone disses it.
I don't know. What about Ben Nelson?
Yeah, well, Ben Nelson's incredible in the ring, but
He's like
again,
one of the greatest right now, up and coming, really coming along. It's been what, a year since he's been in the ring with Canary Kid, and that was like a decade ago or a year ago or whatever. And it's like that was then. This is now. Who knows what'll happen if them two meet now? I mean, oh wait, here's another question. Let's bring this in, or a comment from Damien. You have to respect Keaton's determination to defend his friend and co-wrestler, the Canary Kid. Everyone should have such a loyal follower. I guess, but it's like but I always like to remind Keaton is I inspired him first. And I'm the one that got him excited about wanting to do wrestling before he met NIPW folks.
that is indeed true. But there's a but on that. You have disrespected the Canary Kid, and I know the Canary Kid far more than you would think. And the Canary Kid is one of the greatest professional wrestlers to ever step foot in NIPW. But you disrespected the Canary Kid, and that is exactly why I
Okay,
am
what did
more
I okay,
inspired.
let's clarify this. What did I do to disrespect him?
What did you do to disrespect him? It's
Mm-hmm.
every single week. When he was wearing nice, dear, professional wrestling leggings as a professional wrestler, you made a video of Elvis Presley and just put a video on to mock him. Why would that?
Oh, I was complimenting him. I was like the king of rock and roll, and now look at you look just like the king. That was like a big compliment for him.
Then why did he laugh? Why did you both laugh? It's because wait, what you said after it did not seem like it was much of a compliment. It seemed like it was more insult. So when you call the Canary Kid the bully, when you turn it around and when you really look at it, you are the bully.
I'm the bully.
Hmm.
Well, no, you have to be a bully. You have to actually, you know, beat somebody, and I haven't actually touched the Canary Kid.
Well,
So
you mentally touched him, and you've now mentally hurt the Canary Kid.
I don't know. Doesn't seem to. I think he's bullying me. He's the one who keeps saying he's going to beat me up if he wants to. I've never really said that about him. So
Oh, so you haven't even said this on this. What you said was that you'd have the Canary Kid if he'd done a match, and you're annoyed that he wouldn't accept it. But yet again, uh, you, you've never threatened to beat him up. That does not
no,
make sense.
no, I've never. I wouldn't hurt the Canary Kid. I would just clip his wings. That's all. They need to be clipped. He needs to be brought down a peg or two. Gizmo says this, and he confirms. The Elvis comment is truly a compliment here in the United States.
Yeah, and being compared to Elvis is something else. But you didn't say it in a complimentary way. You said it as if you were bullying the Canary Kid.
Look at this. I bring up the bully comment was my thing, and now Keaton's trying to reverse the whole bully thing on me. I don't get it, folks. I don't get this. It's just Keaton being influenced by that Kool-Aid and the Canary Kids, threatening in the training sessions. Who knows what's going on there? And yep. So now, what was I going to say? Oh, so I suppose we should probably wrap it up. I keep it a little over an hour.
Yeah.
But thanks, guys, for tuning in. And I see we got the regular guys. Remember, tomorrow night we'll be back with Rewind for that studio show. I know Gizmo and those guys like watching that stuff, so we'll be there for that. And Dixie Dave will be with me. And you guys managed to get him being a big heel now too, so I got to deal with that tomorrow with Dixie Dave's heel talk. So
Does he respect the Canary Kid?
they seem to have a love affair going on. Like Canary says Dixie Dave's the one who makes the NWF matter, and Dave says Canary does the drop kick like me, but just a little bit better, is how he says. Who is
Dixie
Dixie
Dave is a smart
Dave?
man.
Who is Dixie Dave to compare anybody doing a drop kick? He could never do the drop kick. Dave
Dixie
couldn't.
Dave is a man with a lot of knowledge. If he knows how good the Canary Kid is. So that man is an in-ring veteran.
But I think it's very. I honestly, maybe I should take a little credit for the training of Canary Kid in a way, because since he's copying my drop kick now and the style that I did it, and he is, that's a fact. Then maybe I should say that I partially trained. That's honestly, Keaton. That's people do that. I'm not going to do it, but people do that. Like for instance, Eddie Sharkey's got credit for training Waltman. Waltman was pretty much trained when he came to PWA. But because he worked with Eddie for a little bit, Eddie gets kind of, credit. That happens. So I'm just wondering, do you think when with Marty Jones, the whole Marty Jones, did he train Lord Steven Regal? Do you think he did train him, or do you think he just maybe partly trained him?
No, he definitely did train him.
He did?
William Regal said it in those interviews. He was just trained by Barney Jones.
Okay, so that's so Ricky just needs to do his homework. Am I right?
Ricky has to do his homework.
Well, Ricky's or Canary Kid said that you were wrong. Marty Jones never got trained or he never trained Steven Regal. Remember?
Oh well, yes, I suppose I was right, but it's not like the Canary Kid to be wrong.
Oh,
So
so he just
I
made
was
a
very
mistake.
surprised.
He just made a mistake.
Yes, he just made a mistake, or else I think you know what? I think he was just saying it, um, to maybe make me look more knowledgeable.
I think Wrestling Revolution is auditioning to be Next Level 3 with Canary Kid here, or maybe make it a 6-man tag. Let's see here. Sky Sports Video News says Crusher before your show, no one knew who the Canary Kid was in the United States. Now with your help, he could sell out as a show here in the US. That's true. I am putting Canary Kid on the map. And, it's because of me, Crusher Crossen, that his dropkick is now getting to be a thing of beauty, just like mine was, because Canary has studied it. And so, yes, I will take that credit. Thank you very much, Sky Sports Video News.
I'm speechless.
Good. And on that note, Keaton, we got to wrap the show up. We got a caller a night for you guys over there. It's afternoon here. But again, folks, remember, we'll be on tomorrow, Thursday, for Rewind. See me and Ricky, a.k.a. the Canary Kid, here in a week from Friday with our special guest, CC Carter and Sean Hernandez with San Antonio Style Wrestling. That'll be a great interview. And then a week from Sunday, back with Keaton. And who's the guest again?
Johnny Palmer.
Johnny Palmer. So that should be a fascinating interview. You know, Keaton lines up his own guests. So I don't always have to ask him, like, who's our guest? So, all right. Thanks for tuning in, guys. This was a fascinating interview today, even though I got in late on it, but it was a good one for the love of wrestling.
Yeah, it was very good.
Yep. All right. So with that, we'll call it good, and we'll see everybody tomorrow on Rewind on the NWF channel, at least. See you, folks.